Right now I'd like to just take a couple of minutes to read to you a story from the Spark Story Bible. If you're going to be working exclusively with other kids, please feel free to skip this. This Spark Story Bible we generally use with our preschoolers all the way up through first grade. Occasionally we will also use it with the older kids if a story is particularly confusing. For example, earlier this year when we studied Ruth, the first couple of weeks we did read it from the Spark Story Bible because there were a lot of different names and places, and the Spark Story Bible laid it out so that they understood it, and then when they heard the more complicated version, it was easier for them to comprehend. I'm going to read the story of Mary and Martha because that is the story that we'll be studying when you start with Kids Quest. Mary and Martha. Jesus and his disciples were traveling. Along the way, Jesus decided they would visit with their friends Mary and Martha. Mary and Martha were sisters. They lived in a house together. They got along very well, most of the time at least. While Jesus visited with them, Mary sat on the floor and listened to Jesus teach. Martha, on the other hand, was very busy. She didn't have time to sit down. She cooked olives, fish, and bread. She cleaned, sweeping the dirt floor and shaking out mats. Martha worked hard to make Jesus' visit special. As she hurried around, she saw Mary sitting down with Jesus. Humph, she thought, why doesn't she help me with the cleaning? A few minutes later, Mary was still sitting as Martha worked. Martha got a little bit angry. She cleared her throat, thinking, Mary could at least help me get this meal ready. All of these people to feed, and she isn't helping one little bit. Martha continued hurrying around, getting angrier by the minute. As she swept, she thought, Mary knows how to use a broom. As she cooked, she said to herself, Harumph, I think my sister could at least stir this pot. As she got water and towels ready for cleaning Jesus' hands, she grumbled to herself, Grr, all of this company, and I am doing all of the work. Finally, when she was still working and Mary was still sitting, Martha couldn't take it anymore. She burst into the room, interrupted what Jesus was saying, put her hands on her hips, and said angrily, Mary, please get up and help me. She looked at Jesus. Jesus, tell Mary to get up and do something. Jesus stopped what he was doing. Everything was quiet for a minute. Finally, Jesus looked at Martha. You are worried about every little thing, he said. Martha, 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 thank you for your work to make my visit comfortable, but you do not need to worry about all those things. Mary has decided to sit and listen to me, and that is a good decision. Martha thought to herself, maybe I should just sit down and listen to what Jesus has to say, at least for a minute. Maybe Mary has a good idea. So she sat and listened, and that was a good decision. So you can see the graphics here, and at the end of this story there's a little star, and it says, act a bit like both Mary and Martha. Help a grown-up with a chore, then read a Bible story together. So there's always a suggestion for an activity or a question at the end of the stories in the Spark Story Bible. So I hope that's given you a quick overview of how the Spark Story Bible works and the kind of language it uses for kids.